Hello and welcome to Zero Hanger TV, where we are here at the Adelaide Oval. I'm with AFL Chief Reporter Mitch Keating. Hello, mate.
Hey, mate. How are you?
Nice. I'm good. It's been a pretty long weekend. I'm a little bit dusty. It's been a massive one for Gather Round. How did you find it?
Yeah, absolutely awesome. Great experience. If you haven't done it yet, certainly appeal to do so. Because it's been, like you said, it's been a long weekend. Plenty of footy to be watched and plenty to take in. But Adelaide's put on an absolute great show. It's been an absolute vibe.
Yeah.
Very happy with what we got to see throughout the last 5 or so days.
Yeah. Personal highlight?
Personal highlight. Just everyone's just been so welcoming, so kind. Everyone's here obviously for the same reason, just to watch and enjoy some footy. And I think most fans enjoyed the footy they might have watched. Some fans probably went away a bit disappointed, but overall it's been great. I think some of the access that some fans get as well to players and clubs, especially locals in Adelaide. Like you still get Geelong fans and Carlton fans, West Coast fans from South Australia, and they kind of get to meet some of their players and see their club up a bit closer than what they would given their interstate fans. So I think locals have been treated, and those that have kind of made the trip over to SA have also been treated to some great weather and some great football to go with it.
Yeah, I was interviewing a lot of fans, and they were pretty just happy people. Even if the teams weren't going that well, most people were just happy to be celebrating footy. Really, some personal highlights for me, apart from the D's winning. The little festival after last night, after the Gather Round wrapped up.
That was good.
Seeing DJ Josh Rochelle on the decks. I've never seen someone so natural on the decks. I think if you put a little vest on him, I'd would have thought it was Fred again.
Yeah, there you go.
Real good stuff. And then Alira as well on the decks as well. So that was probably the personal highlight for me. But let's get into the footy. So a couple of big games for Gather Round. So one team that is on a bit of a roll. They haven't won a lot of games by big margins, but they're undefeated. So Carlton, they're looking really good. Real deal. What do you think?
Yeah, well, they certainly are. Whether they're premiership favourites, they probably in that bracket. Sydney have probably petered a little bit the last 2 games. GWS, another one of those sides who are right on top. So I think it's probably between the Giants and the Blues as premiership favourites. As we know, Pies not quite there. Like it's 2 back-to-back wins going into their break is certainly what they needed. But a few teams will catch up to them now that they have their bye, along with Sydney as well. So 2 clubs who probably might take some positives away from their run before the buys, but at this point in time, I think Carlton certainly are. Like and the weekend's performance against Freo, some luck involved, obviously, but they might not have been the better team on the day, to be honest. But I think that comes down to how close this competition is going to be this year.
Yep.
Freo have been a great team and were an undefeated side before Saturday's scrap. But the Blue is certainly the real deal. At the moment, my premiership tip, I think I had the Lions before the start of the season. I still think they'll come around and they'll be there come September.
Yep.
But the Blues are certainly the form team up there with the Giants and probably the Swans. Yeah,
a lot of the comparisons being made to Collingwood last year, where they are not winning by a lot, but they're getting the wins, and I think that's it's a bit of a scary prospect to see Carlton playing so well. So on the other side of that, Carlton undefeated, GWS undefeated. Of the teams that have yet to win a match, who would you rather be out of West Coast, North Melbourne, or Hawthorn? There is Adelaide in that conversation as well, but I think they're a little step ahead of most of those guys. But where would you put those 3?
Yeah, Crows aside, it's a bit of a tough one. I think North Melbourne might be the most disappointed, especially out of this weekend, just with how they went up against the Lions. Still struggling to kind of get things to click, and it's not necessarily like we knew some of the issues they would have had with their depth and their key backline stocks in particular, but it's your Davies Uniacke, it's your Jai Simpkins, it's your Cam Zohars, it's your Nick Larkies, it's the Luke McDonalds, it's the senior guys. In what is the youngest team in the competition, it's the senior guys who are probably letting them down, which is exactly what you don't want when you need to kind of get through these kind of harder years. And you really want those senior guys leading by example. So it's going to be a bit difficult for them if that continues. As we know, those kind of 4 or 5 guys that I just named are stars of the competition and can certainly help the Roos, steer themselves to a first win. So, they're certainly the most disappointing side. I think West Coast would be quite happy with what they saw on the weekend. They're still missing a couple names in Oscar Allen, and I think they'll get Dom Sheed back soon. And it seems like a few others are pressing their case in the waffle at the moment. But then I think I'd love to be Hawthorn. Sam Mitchell still quite frustrated as you could be with how the game kind of wrapped up. Such a slow start, and he was quite disappointed with that. But they got themselves back into the game through the likes of Blake Hardwick impressing. John Newcomb was huge. Dylan Moore as well stepped up. So I think Hawthorn, just given also the players that they're missing as well. Key backline's been ripped to shreds. No Mitch Lewis, no Luke Bruce as well on the weekend. They get Will Day back in maybe another month. So it's been a bit tough for them as well on the injury front, as it has been for the Eagles as well. But I think I'd like to be Hawthorn while winless. I think it looks like they're slowly improving each week. After that Melbourne game, it was obviously quite frustrating for them, and to come back through last week and then really put it to the Pies in the second half on Sunday. There's improvements there, yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Hawthorn, we have our Macro Mike game changer for that game. So Hawthorn didn't get the win, but our Macro Mike game changer for that week is Blake Hardwick.
Yeah, it was masterstroke from Sam Mitchell. Obviously, Blake Hardwick's been training as a forward over the preseason. He did a little bit last year as well, and they've kind of wanted him to use him as a forward, but it's just a matter of him being still such a good defender. And them having the likes of Nick Watson, Luke Bruce, Jack Ginnivan, Dylan Moore already in attack. So when you lose Watson and Bruce through injury, it kind of gave them some flexibility in the second half. That Mitchell kind of said post-game that they needed a bit more contest and a bit more grunt forward of the ball. And Hardwick provided that. 4 goals, stood up. Great set shot as well, by the way, for a bloke who's been a defender most of his career. Fantastic kick of the ball. Just gave them something. And yeah, absolutely a game changer in every sense of the word. I think they had 3 goals to half-time. Him, Moore and Ginnivan booted 9 goals out of the Hawks' 11 for the whole game. And really got them back in the contest. So yeah, Blake Hardwick certainly our Macro Mike game changer for Sunday's final game.
Yep. And don't forget, Macro Mike is the best tasting plant-based protein on the market at the moment. So what did you make of the Ginnivan matchup with, he was up against Maynard for a little bit, he was up against Quainer. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I think Craig McRae kind of said it after the game as well. Just, it's how you probably would have scripted it.
Yeah.
He gets that head-eye free kick to kick the Hawks' first goal. Some probably might have thought he would get something similar at the very end to win it for them. Wasn't the case, but he was still a good performer overall. Shrugged off a few of the boos and got a couple goals on the board and really gave it back to some of his premiership teammates. Obviously, it's all a bit of fun, a bit of love between them, but Sam Mitchell as well, saying he's just happy he's in the brown and gold, and Collingwood fans I think are pretty happy, especially what they got to see out of Lockie Schultz in the first half as well. So it's just one of those ones. It's a win-win for everyone, and especially for the fans. Yesterday got a bit of a show, so it was great.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen it at the G, but I think Adelaide Oval turned it up for that one. It was a pretty good vibe. I think even the neutrals are getting in on that one. So moving over now to our MVP for this round. So Isaac Heaney extending his lead and a couple of other new faces in there.
Yeah, well, he's got a bye now, Heaney, so he might not hold the lead, but 18 votes is a massive gap after just a few rounds of footy. So he's up to 77, 1 vote short this weekend of a perfect game. So again, absolutely stellar against West Coast. And again, working alongside the likes of Chad Warner, James Rowbottom, Errol Gould, and that Sydney Swans midfield is immaculate and just working so efficiently at the moment. And hence why earlier in the show we mentioned them as probably one of the contending clubs for the flag at this point of the year. And then, kind of going through the rest of the leaderboard, Max Gawn, 59 votes, Matt Rao, 53 votes, Tom Green at 50. Connor Rosey and Chris Petrarca both polled 20s over the weekend to put themselves in the top 6. And Bont, Merritt, Butters, they also polled as well. And then some of the other 20-vote games, Tom Liberatore, absolutely fantastic. Huge numbers despite the loss. It was quite obviously another frustrating result, and one we've seen a few times from the Bulldogs in being so dominant yet not getting over the line in that midfield battle. And then on top of that, Joe Danaher, another 20-vote game. So there are a few handed out over the weekend, but Isaac Heaney, 18 votes ahead of Max Gawn. It's a comfy lead. He has the bye, so Gawney could chase him. And we've got the likes of Rowell and Green trailing as well. So it's going to be quite an interesting week or two to come in our MVP. And then obviously by the end of round 6, everyone that had that opening round show that has their bye, we're going to kind of get an easier look at just whereabouts our MVP standings kind of sit with every club having played 6 games.
Yep, absolutely. I'm pretty keen for those games to even out just so I can understand what is actually happening on the ladder and with all the votes. So now moving over to the rookie rankings. So McKercher, Windsor, Howes, all flying again.
Yeah, it was a bit of movement. McKercher probably holds his spot. Probably out of his 4 games, not his most impressive. I think Norwood probably hurt him a little bit because he probably likes a bit more space, a bit of run. He did get a little look. I think there was a second or third term, just had a bit of run through the middle of the paddock, which is great to see. But probably just couldn't quite, use that slingshot on a bit of a tighter ground. So that probably hurt him a little bit. But he holds his top spot. Harley Reid up into second. This was kind of a tough one. I think do you hold Windsor in second place or bump Reid up a couple spots. But Harley Reid I think has just been pretty consistent. Like he's not putting in huge 4-quarter performances, but I don't think Windsor is either.
Yeah.
And that's you can't really expect that from some of these teenagers anyway. But Harley Reid, I think already had 7 tackle breaks.
Yeah.
In the one game, I think he's got 11 for the year, which is the most in the competition. And that 7 is only 1 short of the all-time record.
Yeah.
Set by Dusty and LDU of 8. So in just his 4th game, that's an absolutely magnificent effort. He had a few clearances, plenty of kicks, and got his first goal as well, which is a great scene. So yeah, he jumps up a couple of spots. That sees both Windsor and Howe's drop down 1. Blake Howe's probably a bit disappointing, but like I said, when you're playing a half-back role and you're not always going to be able to get into it, especially when your team is a bit dominant on the night as well. I think he had just the 1 touch to half-time, but 8 in the second half was kind of able to turn things around. And that has been the case with Blake Howe so far this year. Probably a bit slow to get into it, but once he does, he certainly knows how to have an impact. And as we said before, Caleb Windsor is just ahead of him. Still so clean, offers plenty of run, and just another formidable performance. Nothing, out of the gates like we saw the week before, but still just, cementing his spot in the best 22. And then Seth Campbell, again, a roll a bit further up the field, and I think that was kind of a good idea from the Tigers against the Saints at Norwood Oval, and you had Shea Bolton and Dustin Martin playing a bit deeper as well, which was nice and getting plenty of float through. So yeah, Seth Campbell, a bit of a high roll, 18 touches, did a pretty good job overall, and he holds his spot in 5th place. A few honourable mentions: Sam Clohisi. It's going to be hard to see him not in that top 5 or 6 when we kind of expand our rankings in the next few weeks. If he keeps up that form, that was easily the best debut game we've had this year.
Yep.
Against the Giants, and a few others as well. Will Graham, another debutant for the Suns, I thought was pretty impressive. Riley Sanders, another one, probably unlucky not to be in our top 5 at this point. I think another performance like he did on Saturday night probably gets him in there next week. So there's a few good rookies so far this week. And then, as we mentioned earlier in the season, once we hit round 6, we'll expand our top 5 to a top 6, and then every 6 rounds or so, we'll get another name in there, and by the end of the season we'll be having about a top 8 of rookies, just as we get a bigger and longer look at what will be a longer list across the course of the season.
Yeah. Speaking of Riley Sanders, I think one of my favourite football moments of the round was him running about 50 metres the wrong way. So, that, I reckon that gives him another couple of votes for the rookie rankings, but just for the pure enjoyment of it. So, moving over now to our mailbag, my favourite segment. So, we have a take here from Gogsy M. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. I don't really know. It's always hard to do that. So, he just says the Freo loss hurts. So I agree. Not even just from the fact that they lost, but the way that it ended. I think a lot of Freo fans are hurting at the moment.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't like, kind of breaking down games by slow-mo. And yes, it was touch. That's fine. AFL's admitted that. That happens. It might have happened in the second quarter. No one picks up on it. Might have happened in the third quarter as well. It was unfortunate timing. But those mistakes certainly happen. And like I said, same with like MRO and tribunal stuff. I think slow-mo technology sometimes kind of just gives us a bit of a different lens. It makes us kind of break it down a lot slower, but it's such a hard game to officiate.
Yeah.
So that was obviously disappointing. But I think, and this is kind of the tone Justin Longmuir had post-game as well, it was certainly a disappointing result, just given the position they were in. A couple of minutes left in the game, 1.5 goals ahead or whatever it was, to concede that Cottrell goal anyway. I think it was a Luke Jackson hit out that probably should have just gone straight down into the contest again and not slapped back out into space. Probably cost them. I think there was a Patrick Cripps handball that they really needed to lock in. Went to Zach Williams and he just was able to run through a couple of Dockers players on the wing, kicked it long, and that was that Kerno mark. So there were some moments there that the Dockers would have liked to have had back. So I think the disappointment, particularly probably from the club, isn't on the controversy at the end. Maybe how they lost the game in general and kind of allowing some of those late goals certainly would have added to it.
Yeah, there's 1,000 other moments in that game that could have sealed it, but it is going to be a tough one for Laura Kane this week, I think, to have to front the media on that one. So all the best to Laura. Our final one is a question from Champ Edwards. What do the Crows need to do to win next week?
They've got the Blues.
Yeah.
And, one thing you know about the Blues is they're going to be hard at the contest.
Yep.
And it's just an area that Adelaide has probably lacked a little bit. They've probably been a bit one-paced, though, and I guess the inside midfield battle is something that they could win. And they just kind of have to watch what Freo did to get the game on their terms over the Blues. And that certainly was the case on Saturday. It was all going Freo's way. They just couldn't quite hold on. So Adelaide probably just need to study how that midfield battle is going to be won, because they've got Crouch and Laird, who certainly can work through that midfield battle inside. It's just kind of that outside run as well. Like the Blues are turning really well to being a good inside and outside team. They're very strong at the contest. Obviously, we've got Patrick Cripps in there, but they're probably going to get Sam Walsh back this week.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be adding some outside run as well when you've got George Hewitt, Adam Shearer in that midfield mix as well. So that's going to be really tough, I think, for them, and certainly where the game will be won and lost. Tex probably needs to find a bit of form.
Yep.
And he'll probably come up against like a Jacob Wiedering, which is going to be quite an interesting battle for them for the evening. But it's going to be a tough one. Likely looking at an 0-5 start, the Crows. But if they want to win it, it's going to have to be some guys like Rory Laird and Jordan Dawson stepping up in midfield, just like they did last gather round. It was absolutely fantastic performance. One that really put them on the map as far as their finals prospects. Obviously didn't get there in the end, but that's why we were so, had such high expectations of them heading into this season, because we know what they can do. So it's been a frustrating start, certainly for them. But Jake Sligo was great. I think he's going to be quite an important one. I think it would just be nice to see a bit of a midfield change as well. Like we were probably promised a bit more midfield time for Rankin and Rochelle. Haven't quite gotten that, and they offer that flair. They offer that little bit of run. So that's certainly what could help them as well against the Blues. So it's certainly going to be like cliche, but midfield's going to be where that game's won, I think.
Yep, absolutely. So shout out to DJ Rochelle. Hopefully he has a good one next week. That wraps it up for Zero Hanger TV this week. That wraps up the Gather Round. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Phoenix.
Thank you for everybody that jumped in front of the camera, did fan content. It's been an absolutely a really fun time here in Adelaide.
Awesome.
And hopefully we're back here next year. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can catch all the latest AFL news at zerohanger.com.